So this is the best I can do with my voice this week. Sorry, I have like 3 different medicines and some Hall's cough drops, and I'm drinking some soda to try to keep the cough away. Dr. Mike, I bet you didn't know this as a doctor, that one of the many proven medicinal values of Dr. Pepper is anti-cough. Did you know that?
Well, there's a reason why it's Dr. Pepper.
Oh, ooh, that's very good, very good, very good. Hey, welcome back, everybody. We took a week off last week.
And now you've got a week off.
Yeah, I'm weak all week. We took a week off last week because, larger events that we all know about kind of impacted us in a very small way. We had 2 guests lined up to come and speak with us. And coincidentally, both of them have very direct personal family connections to the Ukraine, and they had to cancel on us at the last moment, which we totally understand, of course. They had much more important things to worry about than talking to us. And so that's why we were kind of silent last week, but we're back. And with a couple of episodes, our first one this week, kind of related to something we did a month or 2 ago. We had a list of the largest companies here in Krakow and nationally in terms of turnover. And now we've got a list of the largest employers in Krakow. Now, this list, just like the previous list that we talked about a couple of months ago, it's a mix of public and private institutions, because when you talk about organizations with lots of employees, inevitably you're going to have government institutions, universities, hospitals, things like that. And so this list is a mix of public and private, although the closer we get to number 1, the more private the list will be. Josh, Dr. Mike, before I jump in, and by the way, I'm going to start at position 15 and count down to 1. So both of you guys know Krakow very well. You know the employers. You know where people work. What are your guesses for the top 15, the names we're going to hear in the top 15 employers in the city?
Well, I'm going to say Cap Gemini.
Motorola. Google.
Yeah. What are the other HSBC, State Street, Cap Gemini is a good guess. What did you say, Josh?
Google.
Google?
Or Motorola.
Motorola's on the list. Motorola's on the list, but not in the top 15. Philip Morris also on the list, but also not in the top 15.
Shell, I know, used to have a lot here.
Okay, I think we'll talk about Shell in just a moment. Well, let's start with 15. Now, we're starting with an organization that has 3,200 employees. So just to make the top 15, you need to have at least that many. And again, Philip Morris, fewer than 3,200. Motorola, fewer as well. And again, most of the universities and hospitals in the city have just under that too. But anyway, 3,200 employees. State Street.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't everybody know somebody who works at State Street?
Yeah.
Or used to. Now, here's the better question. Can anybody explain what State Street does?
It's a bank.
It's not a bank.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Financial institution.
What does that mean?
It means
It means
they do things with money. Aren't they more of a accountancy, investment advisory something?
They're the guys that,
because I don't think they're a bank in the conventional sense, Josh.
Well, when I and this is going to sound much more blowing my trumpet than it really is, but when I was working in the City of London, like 20 odd years ago, kind of like State Street was a bank in the city. And it was because I was working for a stockbroking company, and State Street was one of the banks that I would routinely.
Maybe their location here in Poland is dedicated to something like supporting. In other words, maybe the location in London, as you say, banking, the one here, something else.
Well, look, I mean, it's not retail banking, but it's investment banking, which is already getting into that area of, overlap with, other areas of finance. And
Number 14 on the list, 3,600 employees, more stuff in the financial world, UBS. I know a couple of people who work at UBS.
A few as well.
Is this more conventional, straightforward banking?
Yeah, that's the same kind of thing.
I guess. Are they Swiss?
Yeah.
They're Swiss. And for me, they're like HSBC. When you go to an airport in a foreign country, you walk down the jet bridge and you look across, and the jet bridges all have either HSBC or UBS on the side there.
That's true. They do.
Yeah, UBS is it's one of these like old Swiss banks that I think from the 80s onwards kind of like merged and took over as, has become a kind of a global conglomerate.
13th place on the list of the top employers In Krakow, again, most employees at 3,694 is Zakład Ubezpieczeń Społecznych, better known as ZEUS, Social Insurance Company, government office, obviously. Dr. Mike, what do you think about the size? That's just in Krakow. Nationally, there must be a massive number of people who work for ZEUS.
That sounds insane, because whenever you go to an office for ZEUS, there seems to be 10 people there and you have to wait in line.
Where are these 3,600 people?
They've been copying the British.
Honestly, no, it's like, where are they all? It's just, even considering the job they have to do, that's a huge amount.
Is this strictly admin, or do they actually do something there?
It's admin. It's all admin.
What do you mean, like do something like what, mine for benefits?
I don't know, but like Zeus, this is strictly the retirement, or is this also part of the health service as well?
It's Social Security, basically. So if you break your leg and you go on disability, they handle that as well. Or, pensions as well, retirement funds, etc.
Unemployment, I guess.
Unemployment, yes.
12th place on the list, 3,900 employees, CanPack. CanPack is interesting to me because it's kind of under the radar for a lot of people. We talked about it on our previous list because they're also one of the biggest companies in Krakow in terms of turnover. They have a massive global footprint. They make packaging mostly for drinks, but for some food products as well. Until quite recently, they were headquartered over there. What's the name of that roundabout where, you have IKEA and Macro and...
Cotton.
Yeah, exactly. So they were headquartered there. They've since moved. I think they're moving over here off of Kamińskiego, very close to where we are now, actually. But CanPack, how often do you hear about CanPack, just generally?
One of those huge companies that does something that you're in contact with every day and never realize. Packaging,
Exactly, a lot of packaging. Let's see, 11th place on the list. If my computer can catch up with me. There we go. 4,000 employees, BP Europa.
But that has to be all the outsourcing stuff.
Well, that's the thing. At this point, it gets a little bit messy because BP, I think they have their Polish operations headquartered here in Krakow. But of course, you get into like divisions and subdivisions of huge parts of mega international corporations. And so we count it as a Krakow employer, but we all know that BP is British, obviously. But this is the one place... does anybody know where their operations are? Because I think they were also located...
By Cotton, I thought.
Yeah, the same place as CanPack was. Did they move?
I don't know, but I do remember seeing their huge sign when, coming out from IKEA and like Galeria Bronowice, then you see BP there.
A long time ago, when they first set up this office, I met there was an American guy who was sitting here to fill some fairly high up position. And he was responsible for the retail sector of all the BP gas stations in Poland, and the things they sell inside on the shelves and just the retail operations. And
he's responsible for that ludicrous Wild Bean Cafe branding.
No, but that is a pretty goofy. Yeah,
Wild Bean. Yeah. I mean, have you ever been threatened or intimidated by a Wild Bean?
So-called cafe, but. He told me that this was years ago. This is probably 15 years ago. I think it's different now. But at the time, a major problem that BP had to deal with was people filling their tank and taking off without paying. And, of course, they would call the police. And, this is a very low priority call for the police. This doesn't happen so much now. But this used to be quite a thing in Poland some time ago. Of course, when the price of gas was half of what it is today, people stole more then than they do today. But... draw your own conclusions. All right, cracking the top 10 now. 4,100 employees, University Hospital of Krakow. Dr. Mike, you should know something about this.
Yeah, there's a lot of people working there, but I wouldn't say they're working there. They're just there.
Ooh, getting catty.
But the truth is, yes, besides the medical staff, there's a lot of administration as well. And then there's a lot of like those jobs that nobody really knows what they're doing because it's a huge bureaucracy. So... I would say, 10, 20% of people working there are just there.
So in a typical hospital, I know it depends, but in a typical hospital, what percent of people do you think deal with patients, like directly in a typical hospital?
Directly? Yeah. If it's 25%, I would be surprised. And that's counting, doctors, nurses, etc., technicians. Because then it's all administration. And then, a hospital is just like every other building.
Cleaners, of course.
Cleaners, exactly. Maintenance, etc. So, just maintaining that building is 30, 40% of the staff. Then you have the administration of the building as a building, plus the administration of the building as a hospital medical center. And then finally you have the medical staff who are not all people that actually directly are involved with patients, but they also might just be, pathology labs, carrying around equipment or carrying around, medical specimens. So the actual doctors, nurses, people that you actually meet there are just, tip of the iceberg, tip of the spear, top of the iceberg. Yeah.
Did you just mix like 7 metaphors there? What was that again? Did you say top of the iceberg or tip or? Okay, anyway, let's move on. 9th place, another government institution, AGH, Akademia Górnicza Hutnicza, 4,126 employees. It says here that they have 2,154 professors, which I find mind-boggling.
Well, I know 2 professors there.
So you know about, what is that, like less 1% of 1% or whatever it is? But
yeah, but I have no kind of, professional or academic connection with the place whatsoever. I mean, it's just people I know, people I know socially, and they'd have other jobs as well. Yeah,
that's pretty standard. A lot of professors do have like 7 jobs.
Yeah.
My only anecdote that I have for AGH is something I've probably mentioned before is their name. I don't understand why they keep that name. It seems really outdated.
Because it's historical. I mean, there's a difference between like academia and university. University means it has more departments and fields that it studies in. But academia was the name they started with, and that's their brand, and they don't want to change from that.
AGH has a really weird logo. It's this like this stylized bird, I guess. Red, black, and green, like a African Marxist flag or something. It's very.
When the revolution comes, they definitely want to be safe.
It's very weird. It's very intimidating. But anyway, 8th place on the list of the biggest employers in Krakow. 4,456 people is, and Dr. Mike, you're going to have to help us with this one, the Izba Administracji Skarbowe w Krakowie.
Basically the IRS of Poland in Krakow.
Tax authority.
Yes.
What are they doing all day? 4,456.
I'm sorry. It's when I did not know. If they said 40, I would be surprised. But they have a few offices and people working. They have absolutely no. I am flexible.
Hey, why our taxes are so high.
When it comes to getting their money, the government doesn't mess around. They need an army to, get out there and shake people down, I suppose.
I mean, I can understand there's a lot of paperwork there. So, like, the offices that are all over town, like 5 or 6 major centers, need, say, 100 people each there. But, 500 people, I would have thought is a lot. But you're saying 4,000? And it's just Krakow, not Małopolska?
Krakow, 7th place. 4,700. Back to the private sector now. We're getting pretty big here, 4,700. Can you think of a private sector company we haven't touched on? Mike, I think you mentioned them earlier. Shell.
Oh, okay.
Shell. Now, Shell has this campus basically down in Ruchai. It's Shellville, effectively. It's huge. Can you imagine working for them in any capacity? Do you feel like, is it safe and stable because you work for such a huge employer? Or does it drain your soul of all energy because you work for a huge employer? Which side do you come down on?
Drain your soul, and I don't know if it's that stable because they might decide next weekend, we need to fire 25% of our staff, and Eastern European countries, screw you guys, you're gone. So I don't know if it's all that stable.
I'm curious about all the corpos like Shell and whatnot because, let's be honest, they came here because of the competitive wage levels, I should say. But much of that has eroded away, right? It's not as cheap as it used to be. But they're not leaving. They're not picking up and moving to Cambodia or whatever. So they must still see some value. Is it the I guess maybe the wage level is only one component of a number of things they have to consider. European Union, educated workforce that speaks English, et cetera, et cetera. It's not just the money, because if it was just the money, they would have been gone already.
Like geographical location, probably, because they're like effectively nowadays the head office of Shell is in the UK. So it's just physical distance. It's kind of closer to where a lot of the world's oil and gas may or may not be continuing to be available.
I guess it's also about a matter of sunk cost. They've already invested so much here. So even if the labor force is a little more expensive, the infrastructure is already set up here that, it makes sense.
Well, that campus is pretty massive, and it's, if you're going to move out, who are you going to sell it to?
Everybody knows somebody who works at Shell. 6th place, 6,722 employees. They are, I'll give you a clue, you should know this one. They are international, they make software, like enterprise-level software for mega companies all over the planet.
It's not Comsoft or...
Not Comsoft.
Oh, there are Gliwice and...
Kalmark.
Oh, yeah.
The sponsors of the Cracovia Football Club, actually the owner.
And they're actually like a homegrown or a Krakow-grown big company.
This is a Krakow success story. Professor Janusz Filipiak is his name.
That's right. Yeah.
He started Kalmark with modest circumstances, I think early 90s, I believe. And they are a major, major global player in their niche. What exactly their niche is, I couldn't say. I don't know. I only know it's software for enterprise scale. That's all.
Funny enough, I do know quite a lot because I end up proofreading quite a lot of their English, publicity materials.
Do you understand any of it?
Yeah,
like what they do.
I mean, they're a provider of software as well as software. I mean, also software services. And so, like, if you're a small to medium-sized company and it's not worth your budget having an internal IT department, then you typically get someone like Kalmark to.
We've reached the top 5 here. 5th place, 7,423. 7,423. Jagiellonian University.
Academia.
Yeah. Let's see. Teachers, 3,942. Professors, 499. Why does AGH have more than 2,000 professors? The Jagiellonian has fewer than 500.
It's surprising because, UJOT has more departments. It's a larger school. I mean, they're both large institutions, but that's, 5 times more, 6 times more?
Well, yeah, but it's probably, I mean, an example of the difference between kind of full tenured professors who are on a salary and the associate professors, and how the different organisations choose to categorise them. Because, I mentioned that I know a couple of people who are professors at AGH, but they are they have full-time careers aside from their university kind of responsibilities.
4th place. 7,861 employees. I know what they do at the top level, but I couldn't explain it in detail. Our good friends at Toron Distribution. Now, they're distributing energy. That's what they do in the energy sector. I don't know. Do they generate energy? Do they make it?
They also own power plants and stuff like that. It's an energy company, let's put it that way. I can understand they have a lot of employees because it's just basically just the technicians, people out there in the field connecting things, that fixing things that are broken, etc.
Driving around little white vans with Toron on the side.
Exactly. Looking after the stadium.
Yeah, and they have an arena.
Top three. 8,000 employees. This is a massive success story for Krakow and Poland. This is a rare breed of Polish unicorn, privately owned $1 billion company. Any guesses on this?
Computer games?
No.
Oh.
No, Mike?
Allegro, but I can't imagine.
Close, same sector. InPost.
Ah, yeah.
InPost is a massive success story. Of course, they've grown as e-commerce generally has grown. E-commerce needs somebody to deliver these packages to the doors. And InPost is a extremely well-run company, extremely successful and getting bigger. I think they have their eyes on Europe. I mean, their story is not finished yet. So well done to InPost. Top 2, 2nd place. Biggest employers in Krakow. 9,415.
Earlier on the list, I want to talk about like MPK.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Like 3,000. I thought like that
No,
seems like
they're not even close.
Okay, good.
2nd place, 9,415 is the government. Any ideas? We got the biggest university. We've talked about hospitals. What's left?
Police.
The police, exactly. The Małopolska police. Just under 10,000 employees.
Okay, Małopolska, so not just for...
Well, it's Małopolska police. They're headquartered here.
Yeah.
So, again, it's kind of messy, but they're not all necessarily in Krakow. But
they're close to Grzegorzycka.
Well, their main headquarters is very close to where I live, off of Mogilska. Right after Mogilska goes under this train track. Before you get to Lema and Meissnera, the regional police headquarters is right there. I wonder how many of those 9,400 are actually, police in uniform, on patrol, so to speak. I don't know how heavy
if it's
they are
half,
with admin.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah? What are the rest doing? Fixing police cars?
It's administration and it's all the other technical stuff that needs to be done.
Actually, that's kind of slightly alarming, the thought that like, not just for the city of Krakow, but the whole kind of voivodeship of Małopolska, there's like, let's say, 5,000 active serving police officers. That doesn't seem like a lot, really, does it?
If they were all in one place, I guess it would be impressive. But yeah, spread out over the whole area. And, at any given time, only about 1/3 of them are at work. So
8-hour shifts, yeah.
So I guess, what are you suggesting? We should go steal something, or?
No, of course not.
That never crossed my mind, but
break some windows.
Yeah.
No, I mean, anyway, they're far too busy apprehending people crossing the road in the wrong place.
So we get to the top spot, finally. Just over 11,096 employees. Private company from France.
Awful.
Cap Gemini.
Cap Gemini.
Oh, yeah. Duh.
Cap Gemini. They have multiple headquarters in Krakow. I think the biggest one is over there off of Opolska, just north of, over there by the water park. And what do you call that? Serenata, the mall. That's right, yeah. Okay, this is another one of those, what do they do for me? I know what a consultancy is in the abstract, but like specifically, what do they do?
Gemini do? Yeah.
Collect revenue.
Josh?
I have no idea. And I mean, we all know like dozens and dozens of people who either
everybody
work there
knows
or
somebody who
has
works
worked
there,
there at some point.
You're getting emails from them like, do you want a job? It's like, what the hell?
Oh, they're always recruiting. Well, it takes a lot of effort to, attract 11,000 people.
Recruitment is part of their business, isn't it?
But they only deal with other mega companies, I guess, providing mega company services. I don't know. I think it's administrative support, accounting support, consultancy into, I don't know, business operations. I don't know. Telling other mega companies how to run their business.
We really are displaying our kind of general ignorance of how the world really works.
I guess, yeah. But at the same time, I can say what the police. I know what the police does. If we want to back up the police do. If we want to back up a space, I can tell you what they do. But
you try crossing the road when there isn't a zebra there, or riding your bike after a beer or two.
But Cap Gemini, I'm not sure what they do. And if you go to their website, you see this, corpo talk about providing services and value. And okay, what is that? What do you do?
I believe that
combine our diverse.
I think they are
energetic energies.
They are committed to diversity
and synergy
and combating climate change
and thinking outside the box,
unpleasantness generally,
and yes, and driving results that impact your bottom line. The end.
Impact your bottom.
Yeah. Is that funny?
I think it would be very uncomfortable.
No, I don't know. I don't know what they do. I don't know what they do. So if you're listening and if you work at State Street or Cap Gemini or Shell,
and you have any idea what it is you actually do,
we with all due respect, we don't know what you do. I mean, your company is so goddamn huge. At least the hospitals and the universities, okay, we know what they do. But the private companies on this list, I mean, at least CanPack, they make cans. Okay, done. But Shell and Cap Gemini, I don't know.
Gemini, it's like space camp. Then.
Well, she sells them on the seashore, I think, in the case of Shell. Yeah.
Well, there you go. 15 biggest employers in Krakow. Again, if you work for one of these companies and you want to educate us on what the hell you do, please let us know in the comments.
Anonymously, if that's necessary.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's gonna do it for lists of companies. I think we've covered everybody in terms of how big the company is, in terms of how many employees they have. That's probably enough for now. Final comments on this list, Dr. Mike?
I'm so surprised that Empika is not on here somewhere.
You sound sincerely disappointed.
Yeah, I like to bitch about like the bus drivers and the tram drivers.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, that's it for this episode of the KrakCast. Thanks for listening, everybody. KrakCast.pl, all of our back episodes. And we'll catch you next week on the KrakCast.